There's certainly a lot of topics to dive into. And one of the first ones I want to touch on today is, does DAX 7 affect my company? We hear that question a lot here at Trolley. And what types of companies are in scope of DAX 7? And maybe if you can also touch a little bit on both EU companies as well as companies that are outside of the EU.
Okay, so yes, one of the first questions that any platform or company should be asking is, does DAX 7 affect me? And one of the easiest ways to look at this, is there a simple test that I could apply to find out if I'm in scope? And yes, there's a few simple tests. We are obviously not giving any legal advice here today. This is just conversational so that we're all on the same page. So the first part of the test is to ask, what is a platform? Very simply put, a platform is a website, an app, or a software platform that allows the buyers of things to be matched with the sellers of things. What are those things? We have four kinds: the provision of services, or the selling of services, the selling of goods, physical products, the sale of a means of transportation, or the rental of immovable property, like real estate, rather than a table, which is movable property. Now, simple payment processing software or bulletin board advertising type websites with no real further involvement in the transaction between the buyer and the seller are typically not going to be in scope. Again, this is just very generic. First part of our simple test. Are you actually a platform with one of those four things or activities happening between your buyers and your sellers? If yes, we move on to the second part of our simple test. Are you actually in scope of EU rules? Like, does the EU have any jurisdiction to even apply the DAX 7 to you? First part of the second part, are you an EU resident platform? Then yes, you are in scope. You are a platform, you're EU resident. Usually EU residency means that you pay taxes in an EU member state. You have a so-called permanent residence in an EU member state. You are legally organized in an EU member state, and could also be if your management and oversight happens in an EU member state, then yes, you are likely in scope. So for the platforms that answered no to that, I'm not an EU taxpayer, I'm not an EU resident. This might be a UK platform, Canada, United States, Australia. What's the other part of the test for you? How would you be in scope of EU rules? You simply look, do you have any sellers on your platform with a primary address in an EU member state? Or do you have sellers that offer real estate, immovable property, in an EU member state, that the real estate is in an EU member state? If yes, you're in scope. Now, that real estate item is regardless of the seller address. So, simple example, if you are a UK platform and you have a seller that has a UK address, but they're renting out their apartment in Italy on your platform, you're in scope of the EU DAX 7 rules. That's our simple test.